What's up, guys? This is Busty, and here coming at you with another Gundam War deck profile, revisiting my mono red Psycommu deck. I I really like red as a color, um, and also obviously it is one of the problematic colors. But regardless of that, there's just so much flexibility in this color. I always like to brew around and. Got this updated version for you guys, so I'll jump right in, and we're gonna start with the units, then go through characters, operations, commands. So I got 3 copies of Cattle to start with. Cattle is probably one of the best one drop in the game, if not the best drop, because whilst yes, it is a bit costly for that 2 mil to play it. You do get a 4 health unit that obviously you can only use to defend with, but that's a really big health for your opponent to get through. Um, and there's absolutely nothing stopping you to stack 2 of these between, within the one team. It can go to Earth or space as well, just giving it a really good flexibility as well. Yeah, just I think it's a solid card. I think unless you try to run a very aggro-based red deck, which red can do, um, I would say for any other deck, I think Cattle is a staple. I really like the 2 copies of Hobby Isaac in this deck as well. It just gives me an early attacker that comes down for free. That's really cool. The red units are generally costly, but they also make up for that cost with them being able to deal quite a punch. So we only get the 1 strike points. We don't get any shooting points, but we do get 2 health, which is generally, that's kind of like the watershed between okay and good 1 drops, in my opinion. The 2 health for any good 1 drop is a prerequisite. And also you have the possibility during any assigned phase to pay 1 and move this card to the bottom of its owner's nation pile to return 1 character card to its owner's hand. So you can return 1, obviously you kind of want to return 1 of your opponent's characters back into their hand. Um, Particularly cool if you do this after they play that character onto an already active unit and they want to do Psycommu or something that, that character is normally pretty potent, that decks tend to run on a frequent basis. But it can also return 1 of your own characters if for any reason you would want to attach that character to a different unit. You can do that by moving the Hobby Isaac to the bottom of your nation pile. So we got 2 copies of that here. And then we move on to the two 2 drops. So I'm running 3 copies of the Mandra Battleship. This is definitely a solid option. I really just run it because it is a battleship. You can get it out as well as 1 of your non-battleship units in the turn. So it does give you a bit of a unit advantage. And the supply too is really what I mostly care about. It's really important that you can attack and then you can also defend, and the supply ability just gives you that bit of a closing power in the deck. So definitely Mindra for me. For now, a 3 is a mainstay because I do want to see this card as often as possible. And then moving on to kind of like towards the core of the deck. These were all of course very much sort of support units, but the first kind of like main hitter is a full play set of Gyaradoga. Now Gyaradoga draws you a card at the end of the turn that you play, so replaces itself. This is our first look at Red's enormous card draw potential, which really gives it a massive edge over certain other colors. So it's a 3-1-2 unit, which is really good. It's just a straight up attacking unit. You know, you'll always want this guy. Mostly, you will want this guy to be at the front of the team to get a striking point in. And it does have that 2 cost, which is of course quite usual for red cards. But again, Earth and Space, we've got this flexibility on all our units, which is just it's quite a big advantage again for red. And then my favorite supporting unit in red, and again 3 copies of this because you're not limited to however many you have these in play. We got the heavy equipment type Gyaradoga. So you know we can have like 60 Gyaradogas in play technically. If you got the previous 3 and these 3, not that that's gonna happen too often, but it's just a cool little concept. Only a 1 cost though, 1 cost unit. Obviously you need 4 total generators, 2 of them must be red. But it gives us a 2/3/3 unit, and you can also spend 1 in the resolution step to give 1 damage to one of your opponent's unit cards battling against this card. So it's not even just the three shooting points is really big on a 3 health unit. 3 shooting points that comes down on turn 4. I think that's really decent, but it also has extra reach, and at extra reach, that 1 damage can be enough often to just ensure that you take another unit in a battle, or you know if your opponent's trying to like buff their team with like a battleship that's like right at the back of their team, then you might be able to ping those off the field as well with this heavy equipment type Gyaradoga. And I just really like this card. Again, it's just so much flexibility in it, and I really like the stats of that 2/3/3. Again, it's not a striking unit; it's a shooting unit, so it's more of a you know you kind of want it to be like Gyaradoga, Gyaradoga equipment type, and then you put a Mindra to the back to give those 2 supplies so that they can defend during your opponent's turn. And then the apple of my eye, 2 copies of the promo Jagdoga Quest Pariah type. This card has a 1 card restriction on it, meaning that it can only ever be 1 of it in play. That relies to both you and your opponent. So if you end up having a mirror match against a red deck that also runs this card, then you gotta make sure you get yours online before your opponent does, because once it's out, you can't have any more of that in play. There is another category of 1 card restriction that then says own. So that would mean that both you and your opponent can have 1 in play. But this is one of those very specific cards that you can only ever have 1 on the battlefield between the 2 of you players. It's a 2/4/2 unit. One of the most amazing art, in my opinion, in the card game as well. And these are the tournament winner versions. And the card itself is a 3/1/4, making it immediately a very extremely playable card. But it also has prevent 3, so it'll be quite difficult for your opponent to be able to actually react to this card with commands or other effects. And you can get Psycommu too if you get a new type on Jagdoga. And it has an auto A ability. When Quest Pariah is set on this unit, the number of cards in your hand is considered to be odd. That is because Quest Pariah has an effect which says that yeah, I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I just kind of want to show off this unit specific character here. The name of this character is considered to be Quest Pariah as well. Now you could run the blue Quest Pariah if you really want to. If you want to have like a red-blue deck, that is also possible with the Jagdoga Quest Pariah type, which would be pretty cool. I do have kind of like an idea for a deck with that blue Quest Pariah, but that would lean more into a blue black build. But anyway, I'm digressing here. So the second auto ability of Quesair, when this card sets on a unit card with the Psycommu and the number of the cards in your hand is odd, this unit card gets +1 Psycommu. And then if you have 4 more cards in your hand, the unit card gets another +1 Psycommu. It's really cool because just basic Psycommus don't add up. The effect specifically needs to state +1 Psycommu. And of course, Quest Air can make this Jack Doga unit a Psycommu 4 unit if you can have 4 cards in your hand. And as long as Quest Air is on the Jagged Doga, then as with the effect of Jagged Doga, your cards in your hand will always be considered odd, which is really cool because you will always have a minimum of 3 Psycommu when you have the matchup. And also, let's not forget that Quesair will give a +1, +2, +1 to the unit, making it a 4-3-5 unit, which is extremely diverse. You know, you can keep it back in the station and do the Psycommu sniping. Or you can, you know, send it up. It can be a striker, it can be a shooter unit. It's just very powerful. So we got 2 copies of that because of that 1 card restriction, and I opted to run 2 copies of Cubely. This almost became a 3 copy Cubely situation, but with the amount of card draw we got in the deck, I think that is a solid unit cap. I mean, we're already talking about 18 units, which I think is probably there or thereabout where certainly I tend to be with my units. So 2 Cubely, which I think it's just simply the best cost to Psycommu and effect ratio unit in the game. It's a 252, so yes, it will take you a while to get it online. However, for your investment, you get a prevent 3 Psycommu 2 units, so again, same as our Jagged Doga here. However, you straight up get a 404, making it immediately a very strong potential striking unit, and also with a fantastic auto effect, auto D when this card is in the battle area, earth or space. Roll your opponent's unit card with a set-on character card that is damaged by this card's Psycommu. So basically, again, you can set up a nice little deal 2 Psycommu damage, maybe deal 3 because we're running Pure 2 here as well. And then perhaps finish off a unit with the heavy equipment type Gyaradoga. And also it taps that unit, you know, with a character, which means that, you know, if the unit is tapped, the character is also tapped, meaning that they're not gonna add their power, shooting points, strike points to that team. Just basically giving you, if again, if you set it up correctly, it will give you a win in that battle, pretty much against most units. So 2 of the Cubely. Again, fantastic card. I really like the artwork as well. I think it's a really cool artwork on this Cubely. And yeah, just a very solid unit. On to the characters then. I will have started with the Quest Air. I'm currently at a stage where I'm still thinking about what would be the most preferential unit lineup for me. I believe probably running 2 Quasar would be better for the deck compared to what the setup is right now. But I need to do playtesting to see how consistently I get the Quasar type Jack Doga into hand with a Quasar unit as well. So 1 here for the time being. If the 2 get together, fantastic. If not, then you know, can rejig it a little bit more. I'm running 2 copies of Pura 2 just because it's she's an absolutely solid pilot. For the 1 you get a +2/+2/+1 to whichever unit you put Pura 2 onto, and it will also add 1 to the Psycommu effect of any unit she's on. So the +1, and this is the same stuff. It doesn't say here +1, but it says adds 1 to the Psycommu effect, which is the same, and they just came out in different sets. And any of you who plays this game, played this game enough, knows that there's literally no consistency with the effect texting. But to make any unit a +2, +2, +1 on its own is absolutely fantastic for a character that can come down. Yeah, basically, if you get it correct, turn 4, hopefully turn 4. And she's a new type, and she adds +1 to the Psycommu, so just absolutely fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And then I'm running 2 copies of Shara soon. I'm trying to set it up so you guys can see how absolutely mind-blowingly cool these character cards look in foil. So another 4 total generator cost unit, but doesn't cost any additional resources. Fantastic. And it's a 1/2/1. Not a new type though, but the reason why I run Chara or Shara soon is because she rerolls even during her opponent's reroll phase. So she is kind of like the backup card, or potentially giving you a 2-front battle if you do want to have a Mandra out and you didn't see the second one. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, close the game, Chara soon will give you a defender during your opponent's turn. And my most preferred unit to have Chara on will be the Gyaradogo heavy equipment type, because that will give me a 3/5/4 unit, and that 5 shooting points with the extra ping I can get off the Gyaradoga, and then also come back and defend with, is just super fantastic. This is one of the weaknesses of Red, that it doesn't have units that come into play in reroll stats. But what I can do is get out a Gyaradoga, get out a get a Shara to climb in the Gyaradoga, and then that Gyaradoga will give me a defender during my opponent's turn. And that, I think that is something that obviously is important to look out for in this game. You don't want to overextend, you don't want to be over aggressive if you don't have the right defenders for your opponent's turn. And then finally, again, just 1 copy of Haman Khan. As I said, this is my original initial lineup from my red deck that I believe I've shared previously. She's a fairly costly character, and she will want to come down usually onto a turn 4 unit, so she can immediately jump into action. Now, she does give us an ability to boost the shooting points of the Mandra, because she has Battleship Booster +0, +1, +0. She also has Prevent 3, which is huge again, and she is of course a new type. But on any other unit that's not a battleship, she's going to add +2, +2, +2, which is just phenomenal. And if the unit this card is attached to is on the battle area, it also gets Psycommu 2. So any of your units will be turned into a Psycommu 2 unit. So realistically, again, Haman probably wants to go on like a Gyaradoga heavy equipment type, or a regular Gyaradoga. And this is why I currently only have the 1 copy of Haman in the deck, because I kind of think that I probably want to put a little bit more emphasis on defense. I still have 4 new types that I have access to, and like basically actually 3 that I can have down on the battlefield, which are obviously the usual bunch. Most people tend to definitely run these 3 lovely ladies as their new types in red. But yeah, like I'm just still looking at the flexibilities, looking at trying to cover as much ground as possible. And again, with the hobby Isaac, it is possible to pick any one of these up and just kind of put it onto a different unit if you kind of see something that you really want to have them on later on in the game. But yes, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, all of these units are fantastic. I don't want to cut the Charas just for the sake of having another Quasar and having another Haman Khan, because through this setup, I have access to 4 characters. Whereas if I cut the 2 Charas, I'm just gonna make sure that I do see these 2 perhaps a little bit more often. But as we're getting onto the operation support and the command support of the deck, remember that we already looked at the Gyaradoga that replaces itself, so we got a card draw in the form of that unit. And I'm going all in. I'm running 3 copies of Internal Inquiry. Now this might seem like a lot, and I appreciate if some decks might not want to run it or might just run the 2 copies, but when do you want to see this card? You want to see this card right at the beginning in your opening hand or draw straight into it. After that, I think the longer the game goes on, the more the potential of this card will be lost. Because you want that early selection. You want to kind of like almost almost design your first couple of turns, and just having that quote unquote scry ability that Internal Inquiry gives you is phenomenal. Now if you see 2, even better. If you put something to the bottom, then you can use the next one, look at that. If you like it, leave it. If you still don't like it, put it again, put it to the bottom. And it doesn't cost you anything to do it. You just tap it, you roll it. So there's no loss in actually using the card. You don't have to pay to play it, and it really, 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 really does set up what you're gonna do. So these are the only operations I'm running, because again, I'm thinking like, okay, well, I want to solve the problems with the units and with the characters. If I can't really do that, then by all means. For anything else, I will have command cards. Now, I have been running Insights in the Battlefield for a long time, but the thing about this card is that, again, it needs something that allows you to then draw. The real trick to this card is to be able to not just look at the top 6 and put them back in any order, but understand what you're going to play that turn and what you're going to play the turn after, because you're not just going to be setting up the top 6 cards of your deck, what you're going to draw. You're going to be setting up what you're going to be milling for your costs. And that makes this card a lot more technical to play. You really need to understand your deck. For example, if you want to play a Gyaradoga, you need to take into account that you're going to pay 2 costs for that. So whatever you put on the 2 cards on the top, you kind of want to make sure you don't want them. And then you play the Doga. Remember, you're also going to draw a card of Gyaradoga at the end of your turn. So you have to kind of decide, am I going to pay anything else? If I'm not, that's going to be the card I drop into my hand. If I also want to put a character onto Gyaradoga, which I tend to say don't put characters onto tabbed units, but that's up to as player preference. But you really need to count what those 6 cards will be doing, whether they will be paid for cost or you're going to actually be drawing them up. There's also a possibility to put them back, and because you have any timing on Internal Inquiry, you could play this in your but you have to play this on your reroll. You reroll, you draw, and then you can use your Internal Inquiry after that to put cards at the bottom if you really want to see something come up, or if there's really something you don't want to see. You got like 2-3 generators, put them on the top in such a way that you can remove some with Internal Inquiry, you can remove some with playing Gyaradoga. So these 2 cards work together very, very, very closely, and I finally have managed to get a playset of Secret Arrangement. I have been running Sarazar's Second Coming as a 2 of, because I have 2 copies. And the third Cubely was cut for a, basically cut 2 Sarazar's Second Coming and a Cubely to make space for 3 Secret Arrangement. It has got an errata which says that you can only play 1 of this during a turn, but you can still, with the any timing, you can just draw 2 cards. But this card is so much more than that, because first of all, it doesn't cost you anything. You just need to have the 3 total gen, 1 red, no cost fees. So if you compare that to support from the Middle East, I think that's a 1 cost card that you still mill. So you basically take 2 cards into hand, you still lose so there's 3 cards out of your life. Whereas this is 2, and also fantastically, it says 1 player draws 2 cards. So if your opponent happens to have 2 cards left in their deck, or 3 cards in their deck, play this at the beginning of their turn, they draw 2 up, they draw their last cards up, and then that's it. They've lost the game. So it can actually be a finisher, which is quite ridiculous. This is like the only draw card in the whole game that actually can make your opponent draw cards as well. Only do that if you can, if you know you're gonna win, if you know you're gonna finish though. But it's just a super good card. And whilst I did very much like playing with Second Coming of Saraza, look at the top 5, pick one of those 5, you discard the rest, that one goes into your hand. Still really good card, but I often found that I really when you have to make a call between the Quesair and the Haman Khan, for example, or previously when I only ran 1 Cubely, so it was like either a Cubely or one of the one-off characters. Was very hard. Whereas Secret Arrangement is just a straight up +1 card in your hand. Nothing can go wrong with that. Particularly, again, if you can set it up with insights in the battlefield, or look at something you really like with Internal Inquiry, okay, well, I looked at it, I know I'm going to draw it up. If you have a second one, you can still have a peek. Fantastic stuff. Again, one more thing about Internal Inquiry, I often tend to use it before I draw. That's because of the any timing. That's probably where I can, if there's no other plan, master plan going on, that's probably the best value you can get out of Internal Inquiry. So 3 copies of Secret Arrangement. I appreciate, guys. It's so fucking hard to get hold of this card. So yeah. But what I'm saying is that it's completely possible to play red without Secret Arrangement. It's also possible to play red without these particular characters that I've shown you guys. If there's a little bit more interest, and I certainly have a design, another red design in my head. If you guys are interested, just leave a comment below. I'm happy to share that as well. It's more like an aggro style. I can build it in a way that I'm specifically not using Secret Arrangement, so you guys can see what other means you can use to keep drawing cards in red, because it's just such a flexible color. So anyway, 3 copies of Secret Arrangements, and this is it for card draw. And then I'm running 3 copies of See Through the Tactics. Again, red has like 4 really solid counter cards as well. So again, it's just ridiculous how much red can do. And See Through the Tactics. Again, doesn't cost anything. You just need to have the 3 total gen, 1 red, 0 actual cost, which is the same for all of these as well that we went through. And negate the play of 1 command, character, or operation card, and destroy it. Admittedly, you have to have it, obviously, in your hand preemptively rather than a removal. This obviously is a counter spell, so you have to play it as a reaction to your opponent playing a command character or operation. And I've seen builds where players will go in and perhaps have another playset of some other counter cards. There's also a way to remove character and operations from play with returning. I think it's returning home. It's from set 3. But remember that the units we can kind of take care of, hopefully on the battlefield or through Psycommu. And See Through the Tactics will just make sure that we can really cover our opponent's commander operations. If there's a pesky character, we can put it back on top. We can put it back into their hand. I think it is hand. yeah, with Hobby Isaac, we can put it back into the hand. So we do have a bit of a reactive force as well. Put it back into their hand with Hobby Isaac if they haven't seen your see-through tactics yet. When they try and replay it, you just counter it. So there's a little bit of a synergy there. And also the unit cards we can naturally, which is an absolute staple for red, play set of order withdrawal, which again is it's another 1-3-0. In the defense step, yours or your opponent's move one unit card back to its owner's hand. So this can be super disruptive for your opponent's gameplay, particularly for units that come into play, obviously rolled, which is most of the units. You just wait a turn, let them get re-rolled unless they have a character which you can stop with see through the tactics, of course. And when they would swing with that unit, you order a withdrawal it, and all of a sudden they haven't got fuel to attack you. Particularly for big units, that they invest some resources in, and remember that normally you can only play one unit a turn unless it's support or battlefield, or it specifically states that you can still play it after another unit. And obviously the quick effect will give you one extra drop a turn, but that's also being kept at one extra quick per turn. So these two work really nicely, and you got the Hobby Isaac access too. And then just for generations, we got 12 generations there. I still think 12. I definitely used to build the decks with 13. You guys will remember, and I said 13 is realistically where you want to be. But for this deck in particular, you can get yourself out of a mana screw with Internal Inquiry as long as you see uh, a generator and an Internal Inquiry in your hand. You definitely are looking a little bit better in terms of what you're gonna be able to, how you're gonna be able to sort of design your first few turns. And also an important factor for you guys, whenever you consider my builds, bear in mind that the people who I play with, we've implemented the Dragon Ball Super style mulligan rule in this game. So you draw up your 6, you can keep whatever you like, shuffle back whatever you don't like, and draw back up to 6. That's also very important to generally make this game a little bit more playable, because again, mana screw is real, and games like this do need sometimes a little bit of a support. When you go back in time, and when was this game? 2004, 5, I think. Can't remember off the top of my head right now. They were a lot more reluctant to change certain rules. Whereas now, obviously, the game is alive. If you want to play it in your in its pure form, and you want to struggle a little bit more potentially, then obviously be my guest. This is just an informal little advice there for you guys that we've been playing with the Dragon Ball Super Style Mulligan for years now, and it has been making this game a lot more fun. Anyway, enough of me. Up until next time, guys. Bussy signing out. Peace.